The following program deals realistically with such subjects as murder, assault, rape, and child abuse. Some members of your family, especially children, may be disturbed by portions of it. This is NBC Reports.
Walt Baby Love's favorite song, I Wonder Why. 12:30 with Joe McCoy at 66 NBC.
When you were young and your heart was an open book, you used to say, live and let live. You know you did, you know you did, you know you did. But if this ever-changing world in which we live in makes you give in and cry, say live and let die. Live and let die. Live and let die. Live and let this ever-changing world in which we live in makes you give in and cry, say live and let die. Live and let die. Live and let die. Live and let
NBC News presents Violence in America.
Good evening. Let's begin with what all the facts and figures tell us, that we are a violent people in a violent country, that we live with violence, create it, encourage it, subsidize it, and on occasion honor it. The facts and figures tell us also that we have the highest crime rate of any Western industrialized nation. This profoundly depresses our quality of life, to use a fashionable phrase. In an NBC News poll conducted for this program, 48% of those questioned said that in a radius of a mile around their homes, there were places where they would be afraid to go at night. 20% did not feel safe at night in their homes. That's 1 out of 5. Now, we're not saying that violence is the only problem that troubles us in the United States. It is not. We're not saying that we're the only country troubled by it. We are not. But among advanced nations, we are singularly and astonishingly violent. Violence permeates our lives, sports, television, movies, our society at large. This is what we'll be looking at for the next 3 hours, how this came to be, and what might be done about it. Violence in America. Working with me tonight are three NBC News correspondents. First, Carl Stokes, who was from 1967 to 71 the mayor of Cleveland.
This is the homicide unit of the Detroit Police Department. One of my jobs tonight is to take a look at the human consequences of violence in the black community, where the violent crime rates are far higher than the national average. This story is as disturbing to me as to anyone in this audience, and it is one which has not yet been fully told. I'll be reporting on it to you tonight.
Also reporting tonight on another aspect of violence in America is NBC News correspondent Linda Ellerby.
Certainly as disturbing as urban violence is the tragedy of violence in the American family. Children who are beaten often grow up, if they grow up, to become wife and child beaters themselves. It's a terrible cycle of violence, one most Americans would rather ignore. We'll take a look at that tonight, plus an exclusive dialogue filmed in prison with 4 convicted rapists and 4 rape victims.
And with the story of violence in the place you'd least expect to find it, Floyd Kalber.
Crime, it appears, violent crime, is on the move, expanding beyond the city, beyond even the suburbs, into rural America, into those towns and villages once looked upon as the havens of innocence and peace. Friendship, Wisconsin, for example. I'll be talking about this. I'll also be talking about the American phenomenon, the mass killer, or mad dog killer, and what it is that produces him.
As we said before, we also intend to examine television, the movies, and sports. It's important to know what this program is not about. It is not about war, political terrorism, assassination, or the brutality of dictatorship, left or right. It is about what is happening in our everyday lives, the violence that has become commonplace in America. Atlantic City, New Jersey, 13-year-old girl held in the stabbing death of a woman in front of a crowd on a street corner. Wichita, Kansas, 3rd victim of downtown sniping attack, died today. Fullerton, California, 7 persons killed when janitor opens fire with automatic rifle in college library. Philadelphia, youth charged with using his car to run down and kill 2-year-old boy who threw milk and cookies on the automobile. Bronx, New York, elderly couple robbed and assaulted several times, slashed their wrists and hanged themselves because they were tired of living in fear. Now, we hear stories like those so often that they're almost ho-hum. That attitude can be dangerous, almost as dangerous to our society as the violence itself. There's another form of violence that may seem less serious, but which can be almost as damaging, and that is the violence of words.
You want me to see the teacher? You see the teacher. That's woman's work. I'm out making a living all day without having to see a teacher.
Oh, you sit in your office all day pushing some papers around and flirting with those secretaries, and then you come home at night and say you're too tired to worry about the children. You're a fake, that's what you are. You're a male fake. Fake.
Mothers
fake,
used to love
fake,
their daughters.
fake.
You never loved me. You hate me because I was too smart to marry a jerk like Daddy. You hate me because I'm luckier
PTA
than
meeting.
you are.
Who did you side with? The Negro principal. Right in front of Teddy and Billy and me. How much of this do
Bobby
you
again,
think
didn't you? He came to my room crying. Whenever you don't know what to do, you hit.
Time for everything. Business, bowling, everything else but me. Today's my birthday, and where do you celebrate it?
I'm 19 and I still haven't got a car. How come you won't give me the money for a car?
Gotta work for a car. Then you can buy a car. Then you can wreck the car, which you
Running
will.
after every boy you meet. You're nothing but a tramp.
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. So the saying goes. It isn't true. Names can hurt us badly and in a lasting way. Some people believe that those who are verbally violent are less likely to burst out in other ways. That may be. It's arguable. Perhaps we can say that raising your voice is less serious in the short run than raising your fist or your knife or your gun. Why raise any of them? Why are we violent? And why have we always been so? From the time we crept out of the jungle and into the first cave. For century after century, scholars and philosophers and religious leaders have studied that question, and there is no general agreement. Freud said, there is no likelihood of our being able to suppress humanity's aggressive tendencies. Well, are we then born with a dragon in our nature? That is one argument, that the tendency toward violence is born with us in our genes, a part of our natural makeup. There's another argument, that violence, as expressed in our behavior, is acquired, that is, learned, daughter from mother, son from father. In that case, can it be controlled or even removed from our nature? This is the Dani tribe of New Guinea. Bows strung, spears in hand, off for the battlefield. Certainly in a cultural sense, the trail they're taking is an old one, taken by their fathers and their fathers before them, and leading to arbitration by bloodshed. On the other side of the world, in Venezuela, in a village of Warao Indians, there's also a grievance to be settled. This man has been wronged, and he is making a shield of wood and bark and reeds to be used in a ritual substitute for battle. The children know it is coming. They listen, they watch. And wherever they are, Venezuela or New Guinea, they learn. There is, however, a difference. In New Guinea, the lesson is that of the battlefield as solution, involving blood and the skills of warfare. With the Warao children in Venezuela, the ritual arena is the solution. Shields raised, the fathers of these children will settle their dispute by wrestling, by shoving back and forth until one man is pushed to the ground and covered by his opponent's shield. The passion is there, the hunger for satisfaction, but the violence is controlled. The contest is exhausting, gratifying, and bloodless. This is the father's way, and generation after generation, the children adopt it as theirs. What the Dani children saw was something else again. Their fathers went to war, and that example set, the children had but to follow. So does the playground become a battlefield. Their spear is a pointed blade of giant grass, but the pain and the hurt are real. None of these children was born with a wide and ready knowledge of wrestling and the shield, any more than of the bow and the spear, nor were they born with any exact knowledge of how to settle arguments. What they did as children was to learn by imitation. They followed a tradition, and where that tradition was one of violence, the children sometimes grew up to die of it. To sum up, the tendency toward violence may or may not be born into us. But wherever it comes from, how it develops depends on circumstances, on what's around us. So in a moment, we'll look at the American family.
Violence in America is a news program. It deals realistically with such subjects as murder, assault, rape, and child abuse. Some members of your family, especially children, may be disturbed by portions of it.
We're in the habit of thinking of the American family as a refuge from the brawling and danger and pressures of the world outside, as a shelter built by concern, understanding, and affection. But there's evidence that this is a delusion. In the NBC News poll, 14% of those questioned knew somebody, child or adult, who had been beaten by somebody in the same family. That's 1 in 7 who acknowledged it. The fact is that violence often begins with the family and starts a cycle that eventually infects society at large. Linda Ellerby reports.
The American myth, the simplest home a castle, every family a shrine. Love songs and movies promise us the perfect mate. And childhood games, let's play house. They all perpetuate the dream of that perfect family,
Want to feed the baby?
that unfailing source of love, children, and harmony.
Then get out of your seat.
You've been working. What do you think I've been doing all day? I've got
But homes can be hateful places,
You think I have a big home, but we don't
more
have
deadly
enough
than the
money.
streets.
We don't make enough money.
Have them bill us. Have them bill us.
Bill us.
Half of all murders are family affairs. American parents murder 2,000 children a year.
I will not be here and have to talk on the phone and they say, why don't you pay your bills? Because you're at work.
More than 60% of all police reports involve family disputes. Experts estimate more than 1 million women are beaten regularly inside their homes, their castles. They estimate another 1 million abused or neglected children. Conservative estimates. Domestic violence is easily hidden, especially in the middle and upper classes.
All I'm asking for. Look,
You mean discipline? I take care of the kids. I know how to discipline.
Yet violence in American homes is democratic. It crosses class, race, and region. It could be next door or closer.
Place where you're most likely to be hit, slapped, punched, killed, stabbed, shot, tortured is in the family. I can't think of one family where there isn't some hitting going on, at least between husbands and wives, or parents to children, or children to parents, or siblings to siblings.
The home is the dumping ground for the day's disappointments. Masks are down, faults are evident, vulnerabilities well known. Police say infidelity, money, and drinking are the trilogy of domestic tension. And what starts out as two hands joined as one can easily shift to one hand raised against the other.
Was married quite young. I was totally romantic and thought once you say I do, there was always a happy ending.
Give yourselves to each other in marriage.
As a husband, I could not name one function that he was fulfilling financially, sexually.
For the rest of your lives.
He hit me with the poles of the vacuum cleaner, and he almost made me crippled.
I promise to be true to you. I promise to
Why I beat my wife up when I am depressed and when I am drinking, I don't know yet.
The marriage, I'll ask you now to join your right hands and
He grabbed me and pinned me to the wall in the kitchen and was choking me.
Pressures would build up on me, and then I would just blow up and throw stuff at her and everything else.
I had kept trying to convince myself that things would get better.
But then she'd find a way to get at me somehow. I was even thinking of committing suicide.
He had tried to kill me on several occasions. I started to carry a gun.
I'm sorry that I killed him. I mean, that he just drove me crazy enough to make me kill him. The night that I killed him, if I killed him, I don't remember the actual killing. He took his foot and kicked me into the cupboard, and my head hit the handle on the cupboard drawer. And he called me all kind of names, and he just kept on and on and on and on. And so the last thing he said or did, he put his finger here, and he said, before daylight, I'm going to put a bullet right there. So I started to cry, and I remember getting up off the couch and going in the room where the guns were, and that's the last I remember.
Not all of these women kill their husbands. Some battered wives kill themselves. Nearly all of them say they think about it a lot.
I felt that I could never live without him because I loved him so much, but I also felt that I couldn't live with my life the way it was. I felt totally hopeless. I used to have visions. I lay in bed at night and think I'm going to go down cellar and take a rope and hang from the rafters, and I kind of smile. I think, wouldn't that be nice? Oblivion. But then you think, well, you've got children that are dependent on you. What would they ever do if I wasn't around?
Solutions seem simple, but many women claim divorce laws are one-sided. They say courts don't help and police are unsympathetic. She can walk out, leave him, but the price can be devastating.
Many women who leave their husbands because they've been beaten face divorce actions for abandonment or desertion. These divorce actions, if successful on the part of the husband, would deny them of alimony or support rights, deny them of property rights, and probably cause a problem in a custody dispute. They might lose custody of their children.
Mother said, it's not dead.
That traditional family concept. Man is master of the house, woman obeys or risks punishment. It's changing, but not without a struggle.
It is, Father?
And experts suggest the emerging independent woman may give the truly insecure man just one more reason to hit her. She batters his ego. Even more depressing, wife beating may have little to do with man-woman roles. The evidence shows that most men who hit women grew up where violence was common and acceptable.
Not nice to hurt each other. It's certainly
Kathy is the reverse. She is a husband beater. And she too is the product of a violent home.
And I know this.
He'd went to bed instead of sitting here so I could fight with him. So I just went and got a big butcher knife, was going to get him while he was sleeping. Then he wasn't asleep. So I took the knife away from me. Fighting, arguing, throwing things. I've seen that an awful lot. And I just figured, well, that must be the way to do it. Throw something, punch somebody, anything to try to get them to listen to you or pay attention to you or something.
Kathy, angry and afraid, but her background had given her no tools to control her fear and her anger. She found help, but if there is no help, where does the anger go? To David? Possibly. Wives kill their husbands almost as often as the other way around. To herself? It could happen. Kathy had tried to kill herself before. To her baby? An excellent chance. Most wife beaters, husband beaters, and child beaters share a common bond, an unloving or violent home. Parents, mostly mothers, kill more children than leukemia, or cerebral palsy, or muscular dystrophy, or accidents. This child was 4. She was beaten and burned by her mother. It was not the first time, but this time it killed her. Luckier children survive, but they may carry the physical scars the rest of their lives. And the emotional scars might even be deeper. The abused child often becomes the child abuser.
You know, you're supposed to hit children. You gave birth to them. They're yours. That's yours. You do with whatever you want to do with your child. You can't kill them because the Lord will get you. But anything short of that, that child is yours. My mother beat us. She yelled at us. She screamed at us. She cursed us. She did everything I suppose she might have wanted to say to my father, but couldn't. He wasn't there.
I would get beat up a lot and go to school and would be asked about this condition, and I could never give an answer because I was afraid.
My father has never told me he approved of me. He's never told me he loved me. Or the most contact I've ever had with him was he shook my hand the day I joined the Marine Corps.
Carol and Mike, by their own admission, looking for love they never knew from parents. Carol and Mike, middle class, married young, and very quickly the parents of twin boys, John and Bobby. Carol and Mike, each thought it would be different with their own children. And it was. It was worse.
One night, John was crying really, really bad, and I twisted his arm till it broke. I called the doctor, and I lied, and I said that he'd got his arm caught in the crib, and it was really limp. And I was really scared of getting caught. Not so much of getting caught, but being found out and that they would be taken away from me because I didn't want to lose them. I didn't want to lose the kids.
What's really happening is that these parents have been programmed like IBM machines into violence. Violence is learned just as parenting is learned. And so when they grow up, their means of reacting in a crisis situation is one of violence.
I was having two.
Carol's crisis. She thought Mike was in love with someone else. But she took her anger out on her little boy, on Bobby.
I was on the floor trying to feed him, and he was tired and he wasn't hungry. He didn't want to eat. And he would spit the cereal all over. And something in me just seemed to snap, and I started slapping his face really, really hard. And I picked him up, and I was rocking him in my arms, and I was just crying, and I was telling him I was sorry. I mean, it was just awful. And after a while, I went to give him a bath to take all this cereal off him because it was just a mess. And I just got that urge to hurt him again. And I just started grabbing, I grabbed him and I started choking him again. And I don't know why, maybe it was because I thought he was rejecting me by being that way. And he passed out again. And this time I couldn't revive him. I had hurt my husband and I'd killed my kid, and I kept saying that I'm a murderer, and I just couldn't believe it, that he was dead.
Carol and Mike went to jail, but jail won't bring their baby back to life. And Carol and Mike are not the last parents who will lose control with their children.
We now have to teach them what proper parenting is, what discipline really is. We have to teach them loving discipline, not discipline in the name of abuse. The first 3 or 4 years of a child's life are the years of imprinting. It's during that time when parents inflict psychological damage or physical damage to their child. And at the end of the line, when he becomes an adolescent, and having been brought up in what I like to call an emotional refrigerator, he looks at the world as a pretty hostile place.
Danny, age 10, rejected, beaten, tormented by a stepmother. Programmed.
Well, I hate her. She was mean. And I beat with a yardstick. And I got beat because I didn't know my colors. And I had lots of black and blue marks.
You ever get angry yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Mad enough to want to hit something?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
What do you hit?
Whenever I get my hand to hold of.
Other children?
No. Well, I have about 10 stuffed animals. I go in and beat on them when I get mad.
When you grow up and you have children, how do you plan to deal with it when they don't behave the way you want them to do?
Send them up to the room. Or if they're real bad, punish them. If they're real bad, give them a licking. A licking, a licking, a licking, a licking, a licking.
How badly was Danny really hurt? Will the scars affect him for the rest of his life? Will he in turn instill violence in his own children? We just don't know. But what of the new generation? Can we break the cycle? We can't open every closet, police every family. We can't legislate love. But the truth is, some of us don't know how to love. And what we don't know, we can't teach, can't show, even to a baby. So first, we must learn. Because we are reasoning, thinking animals, we should be able to learn.
Violence may be learned in the home, but it doesn't stay there. For example, rape, a violent assault on another person's body. Studies show many rapists were abused physically, mentally, or sexually when they were children. This type of rapist is called a psychiatric rapist. His crime has nothing to do with sexual gratification. NBC News has filmed in prison a unique conversation between 4 rape victims and 4 convicted rapists. The rapists are being treated by the Adult Diagnostic and Treatment Center of New Jersey. It was the center's first such experiment. Each of these men has raped someone more than once. 3 are married and had good jobs. The women were not the victims of these men.
I was awakened at 3 a.m. in the morning, and I was shown a knife, and there was a baby alongside of where I was on the couch in my living room, and he told me that he was going to rape me, and he threatened the baby's life if I did not do what he wanted.
The most potent weapon to use is fear. The knife or the gun or whatever else is used is only used to induce fear.
Well, mine only happened 2 months ago. All right. And there's still the nightmares, the fear of being alone with men.
See, we have the nightmares too. We relive the rapes over and over again, you know. And it's not a pretty sight to see what you're doing to somebody.
I had 2 rapes and 1 attempted rape in a span of about 3 weeks. The first incident, I had no weapon, but it was a desolate area, and I induced fear and told her that if she didn't do what I wanted, that I would hurt her. And the second incident, I did have a weapon. It was a knife. I never used the knife. I just let her know that I had it in the car, and I forced her to have sex with me.
Did you ever endanger anyone's life?
I think anytime anyone is raped, their life is in danger.
What were your feelings toward your victim at the time of the rape?
Severe hatred. I wanted to control everything. I wanted to make her do what I wanted.
A woman gets put down, though, so much because the woman is afraid to come forward and speak her mind, because in a court of law or anything, it seems like she's the one that's getting put down, not
sure,
this guy.
they're making her look like a whore, which she wasn't. You know, this was not her fault.
It wasn't my fault. I was, you know, I wasn't doing anything. I was going home. I wasn't sexy at 13, you know. There's nothing even there.
A lot of us, not so much the people here, had similar experiences when we were children. At the age of 7 years old, I was sexually assaulted by my stepfather and 2 of his black friends. That in itself, I guess, was bad enough, but I ran to my mother for help. And my mother was not a mentally well person. And she decided that she wanted to perform sexual acts on me. Now, at the time, right, I ran away. I slept out in the field that night. The next morning, I couldn't remember anything. I didn't know anything. And it wasn't until through the therapy here that I actually found out what had happened.
I always heard that it's wrong. The only people who get it are the ones who are asking for it.
Not one of my victims ever asked for it.
All 4 of you here agree that, you know, it's not the victim's fault. Like, you weren't driven, you know, by mad desires, or it wasn't anything that they did. It was something in your past.
That's right.
A drive, a means of getting even.
Did you feel that you were hurting your victims at the time that you did it?
No.
You had no remorse for them whatsoever?
I didn't say no remorse.
You didn't care about them?
I didn't say that. You
You
did.
didn't care about the girl.
Because we are the ones that are the victims, okay? We are the ones
what
that have the suffering.
do
We live with
to
this
help?
feeling
What can
and
we
with
do?
this fear for the rest of our lives.
What can we do?
There's
can you
nothing
do?
You can do. Once it's done, you can't take it back. It's done. What can you do?
Then why are you here?
For self-satisfaction, okay?
Okay.
Because of what this man did to me, the way he has made me feel, maybe I can come here and take some of it out on you.
Go right ahead.
I don't care if you go out and rip off the jewelry next door.
Oh, that's all right.
Because if
With
you
somebody
rip off
else.
the guy's ring, you didn't hurt him emotionally.
You don't know
What
what
you
that might have
did
did
is
to
tore
him.
down my emotional structure. You
You're
took
hurting
away
my
from
physical
me
body.
a secure life. Well, I wasn't afraid to go out in the street. I wasn't afraid to go out and hop in my car at 1 o'clock in the morning to come home from work.
It has taken away my self-respect.
How?
Because this man made me feel dirty, all right? He made me feel like something that is out walking on the street that he could go out and pay for to get it instead of taking away from me, where I choose to give what I want to whom I want.
Why didn't you just go into the bar and say, look, of all you broads sitting here,
which one wants to go screw me?
You'll probably get 15 hands.
Rape.
You don't have to rape the girl. There's 15 girls in that bar that will sit there and drink with you and go home and go to bed with you.
But you're speaking of, excuse me, you're speaking of going out and getting sex compared to the act of rape is a violent, hostile act against women. It's an assault against women.
Rape is taking sex from somebody that doesn't want to give it to you.
The sex is the tool, right? It was for me to put you down, to degrade you, to dominate you, to make you do what I wanted you to do. Under my thumb, like that.
Do you feel society has done you wrong by putting you here?
No, they did me a favor by putting me here. Because I have another shot at life. And I don't want to go back out there and do what I did.
See, I believe if I'd have stayed out there, even if I'd have got away with this one, more than likely I'd end up doing it again. Yes, I feel guilty about what I did, but I'm not going to allow what I did to ruin my life.
I mean, you realize how many lives you hurt in the process?
Yes.
Does that bother you?
But
that's one half.
That's one part, but what about my own? I ruined mine, too.
As you have to live with the thought of being a victim for the rest of your life, we have to live with the thought of being the cause of you living like that for the rest of your life.
Do you think they ought to sit here and forgive you now because you've gotten help?
No, I would never ask them to forgive me. I would love to ask them to try to understand, that's all. There are nights now, even knowing what made me commit rape, right? What made me into a monster, which was my title. I was a monster. The creep that came up from the sewer, you know, and devoured innocent people. Right? But even now, right, there's times I'll go back to that room, and at night when they lock us up, you know, it'll be there. Those feelings will be there. And you cry, you know, just like you do or anybody else.
I feel that a great injustice has been done to me. And I will never forget it. I mean, I might put it to the back of my mind at times, but it's there. And it will always be there. It has had a great effect on my family life, on my life, and my life, even my feelings toward a sexual relationship with a man again.
Rapists who leave deep emotional scars on their victims are men who often have been scarred themselves when they were young. In this respect, they're like one of the most feared and least understood of all violent criminals, the mass murderer. Like rape, mass murder is a male crime. These men killed 59 persons. None had what could be considered a rational motive for his crime. In each case, the motive was buried in an unhappy childhood. Their victims were merely convenient targets of their accumulated rage.
Life has no value to me at all. You're born to die. There's no way you can escape that. All I did was help him.
I just soon see them suffer a little bit on the way. Well, they're dying. I'd like to see them crawl up the last inch to the quarter and just about get to the telephone for aid and then not make it.
Okay.
I am not afraid of anything.
Don't be afraid.
I am not afraid of anything.
Don't be afraid.
The call of the wild, the black cats on attack. The smacker with the grizz draw back. Suffering effects of years of oppressed. Got you running scared cause the way that I'm dressed. Grave diggers, the battle with the snakes. Spooks taking off cause the force is awake. Ha! And now I'm on your back like a rash. Run. Yo, what you can't run from the blast. Looking from my window with death, yo, here's a text. A threat is a black grave digger that can flex. If you can, come upon a land with the creeps. Watch how they sneak when you walk down the street. Look over your shoulder, who's that, the villain? The monkey on your back with the pitchfork that catch you off guard cause you're 6 foot deep in the heart. So don't be afraid of the dark.
I am not afraid, no I'm not afraid. When I walk, cops follow like a raid.
Ducking, they be dipping, disappearing like a swami. Plus I'm extra scared cause you voted Giuliani in the office. You don't wanna caucus with me in the elevator, so you hit the accelerator in your walk, but I still follow like a hawk, just to spite you and your racist thoughts. Plus patrolmen and taxi drivers are alike. Patrolmen pull you over and the taxis make you hike, but I'm fine. My rhymes could put your kids through college, so I don't really listen to your brainwashed garbage. Nappy-headed ones coming through, hit the mark. Craig G. Grave diggers, don't be afraid of the dark. I am not afraid of anything. I am not afraid of anything. Don't be afraid of the dark. I am not afraid of anything. I am not afraid of anything. Don't be afraid of the dark. I am not afraid of anything. I am not afraid of anything. Don't be afraid of the dark. I am not afraid of anything. I am not afraid of anything. Don't be afraid of the dark.
I ricochet like bing, bing, bing. Here comes the grip. Your shit is dictionary. You was tricked already. Look up a nigger and you pick up your dictionary. I bet your eyes bulge out at the fact that nigger is not a synonym meaning black. When the creator said, let there be light, it means it was black. Before that, there was night. And I am not afraid of the dark, but you could be. Maybe you should be. Cause of the guilt, the blood that you spilt in a country you built. Now you worry you may get killed by the grandsons and daughters of those you offend. Don't be afraid of the dark, you're afraid of revenge.
The mass killer develops his view of the world in isolation, deprived of warm human contact. This may explain his lack of compassion, his complete self-centeredness. People are things to him, moving furniture in the world around him, there only to serve his needs. Doctors can look into his background and explain the forces that made him the way he is, but conventional psychiatry has proved powerless to reshape or disarm him. A case in point, Edmund Kemper. When he was 15, he killed his grandparents. He was sent to a mental institution where he was given the best psychiatric care available. After he was cured, he was released, only to kill 8 more persons, including his own mother. Most of his 10 victims were college girls he picked up as hitchhikers. He can talk about their murder and mutilation with great detachment, almost as if someone else had done it.
I won't say that all my victims were Gloria Steinem types, but there were different factors involved in picking them up, talking with them. I talked with all of them before I killed them. But there were certain personality factors involved, the aggressiveness, the flippancy, the I'm better than thou attitude, or the indifference to another human being.
Kemper is now serving a life sentence in the Correctional Medical Facility at Vacaville, California. He's kept in a segregated wing with just a few other inmates. He's always been considered different. For one thing, he's a giant, 6 feet 9 inches tall and 295 pounds. In school, kids stayed away from him. At home, he was isolated from his parents' affection. What he remembers most clearly about them is that they fought constantly. His father left home when Kemper was 7. That's about the time the child began having the sexual fantasies that led him to murder 10 persons.
These fantasies were sexual in nature. There was always that super secret world of mine where imagination was so much more satisfying than reality. The fantasy that I could have relations with any woman I chose, at any time I chose. I started out with thoughts, and then I began destroying inanimate objects, valuables of mine and others. Then I began killing lower forms of animals and going through certain rituals. And then it became larger, or let's say higher forms of animals, dogs, cats, and then it became people.
In most prisons, including the one where Kemper is, violence is treated in the pharmacy with mood-altering and tranquilizing drugs. Kemper and virtually all violence-prone inmates are given these controlled drugs. Other forms of therapy are practiced, but when the doctors want to guarantee results, they write a prescription. The drugs have one big disadvantage, however. Their effects are only temporary.
Well, a man can be well controlled in a state mental hospital or state prison on Thorazine, eventually be released or paroled, and you have no certainty that he's going to follow his doctor's prescriptions. If he is psychotic or has explosive violence or is irresponsible, the chances are after 2 or 3 weeks he'll stop taking the medicine, and then you are in the position of having released a violent criminal on society again, you see.
Dr. Brown is one of a handful of medical experts who see uncontrollable violence as the result of a chemical or electrical imbalance in the brain. EEG, or brainwave tests, here at the California Medical Facility seem to support this view. More than half of the violent inmates tested here show abnormal brainwaves. Kemper has an abnormal EEG himself. Researchers elsewhere have found that chemical electrical changes do take place in the brains of test animals when they are isolated and deprived of nurturing and warm contact with parents. This is a human head, open to the bone and ready to be drilled. The operation is called psychosurgery. Dr. M. Hunter Brown is the surgeon. The man on the table is suffering from depression, but Dr. Brown feels the operation would succeed with violent criminals as well. He sees it as a way of permanently altering their minds. The procedure involves inserting probes into the center of the brain and burning, freezing, or cutting those areas associated with anger and impulse control. The operation is very controversial, largely because it has been confused with an earlier, cruder form of brain surgery called a lobotomy. Lobotomies involved massive destruction of brain tissue, and they turned patients into passive, emotionless zombies. Largely because of this confusion, the courts have said neither prisoners nor mental patients can have psychosurgery. In late 1976, Edmund Kemper went before the courts again, seeking the operation for himself. Dr. Brown, who has volunteered his services, views Kemper as the ideal subject. A patient conventional psychiatry has failed. Dr. Brown wants to prove his theory about violence and the brain. And Kemper, what does he want?
I don't believe that getting the surgery or not getting it will have any determining factor in whether I get out or not. I just want to live the life I have. The law has said I can't be in society anymore, and that I have to be in prison, and if I have to be in prison, I'd like to lead a useful life, and right now I can't.
Edmund Kemper may get the surgery he wants, and maybe it will help him. We don't know. We do know that the disturbed family is the breeding ground for disturbed individuals. Disturbed individuals, and Kemper gave us a particularly horrible example of this, can break out of the family and affect society at large. Now, nobody suggests that every abused child grows up to be a child abuser, or that all abused children grow up to be criminals, or that every child born into a criminal family will necessarily go wrong. But the evidence of a family cycle of crime and violence is strong, and this is increasingly understood. There is now a nationwide campaign conducted by the federal government and private agencies against child abuse and neglect. Programs exist to help parents who want to stop abusing their children. In the matter of abused women, battered women, various women's groups have set up hotlines in more than 100 cities and shelters for beaten wives and sometimes children in more than a dozen towns. In some places, social service agencies and the police work together in dealing with domestic violence, moving in together and following up with counseling. Violence in the family is sordid. There is nothing romantic about it. But we have made romantic other expressions of American violence. We have even created an American mystique about them. And that is what we'll be looking at next.